Good evening everybody and welcome to my new Disney vlog series. This is my ultimate Disneyland Paris guidebook. Now I've been to Disney 16 times now in Paris and I think I'm a pretty good person to be doing this vlog series for you because I know a lot about the parks. I've been there a lot, I know the ins and outs, I know the little secrets, so I'm very excited to share this with you. Now as you can see by the title of the video, my first land is Frontierland. But I'm feeling a little bit underdressed. Not sure I look very Frontierland, so I think this needs to change. Okay, I am ready. This is my video on Frontierland, so of course I had to wear a checked shirt and my Buffalo Bills hat. Obviously, if you've been to Disney before, you know that Buffalo Bills is not in Frontierland, but I think the cowboy hat suits. I've also got one hanging up there as well for decorative purposes. Okay, so we're going to start off with the attractions and rides in Frontierland. Now, a lot of people say that the best thing about going to Disney is the rides. I don't necessarily agree. The rides are fantastic, but they're definitely the things that people want to hear about first. There are actually only two proper rides in Frontierland. One of them is the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and the other one is Phantom Manor. Now, from what I've heard from other people that have been to all of the Disney parks, Disneyland Paris has the best version of Big Thunder Mountain. Now, I absolutely love Big Thunder Mountain. I think it's fantastic. It's the sort of ride that's always got a very big queue, but it's also worth it once you've ridden it. It lasts for about 4.5 minutes, which is actually a very long time for a ride. And if you've wasted an hour, a ride of 30 seconds is not really worth it. But 4.5 minutes is really, really worth it. And it's on the island in the middle of the river. So you've got this huge river or lake, I suppose, and the ride of Thunder Mountain is on the mountain right in the centre. And it took me about 15 years to figure out the fact that the reason you go underground in the dark section in the beginning and at the end of the ride is because you are going underwater to get to the centre of the river. It took me too long to figure that out. I always just thought it was magic how you got to the centre of the river, but yeah, I'm sure you guys have figured that one out for yourselves by now. But yes, it's a fantastic ride. If you don't like roller coasters overly, then it's probably a good one to go on to kind of test the roller coaster limit of yours. It's fast, but it's not necessarily scary. It doesn't go upside down, it's only a lap bar. So yeah, it's probably a good one to test if you really want to go on a roller coaster. Obviously, as per most roller coasters, the front is less wild than the back, because the back you're being dragged down by everybody else, so it's much faster. And since its recent refurbs, it's really great theming. It doesn't break down quite as much as it as it usually did, but yeah, it's really good theming. And actually, I do think it's got a little bit faster, but a little bit smoother at the same time. So as I said, the other ride in Frontierland is Phantom Manor. Now, Phantom Manor is the equivalent in France of the Haunted Mansion in the other parks. I know Mystic Manor is one in one of the Asian parks, but that's not actually really a version of Haunted Mansion. But Phantom Manor is the version of Haunted Mansion like it is in the American parks. Now the reason it's called Phantom Manor, that I found out the other day, was the fact that if you translate Haunted Mansion from English into the 5 most common languages to find in Disneyland Paris, which is English, French, German, Spanish and Italian, if you translate Haunted Mansion into them, it doesn't really sound like anything to do with Haunted Mansion. It's something like La Maison de la Mort or something like that, in my obviously worst French, which doesn't really look or sound like Haunted Mansion. So if you translate Phantom Manor into all those different languages, it'll end up being something like Manor Fantôme or something like that, which is obviously far more obvious. So rather than translating all of the signs into 5 different languages, they just kept it as Phantom Manor, so that all of the people who are French, Spanish, Italian, German and other languages will hopefully read the word Phantom Manor and know that that's where they want to be going. Now, for those of you that haven't been to any Disney parks, Phantom Manor is almost like your traditional haunted house. It's along the same lines as that. And you sit yourself in something called a doom buggy, which is a carriage that goes all the way up the back as well. So it's almost like a C-shaped carriage, and you sit in that. You've got a little lap bar that comes over your lap, and you sit in that, and it takes you around the Haunted Mansion or Phantom Manor. Now, there is actually a backstory to Phantom Manor, and if you'd like to hear the backstory of Phantom Manor, I'm not actually going to go into it right now. If you want to hear it as a video, let me know down below, but I have actually got it as a blog post on my other blog, so I will put it in the description, and if you want to read the story of Phantom Manor and the story of the whole of Frontierland, then actually I'll link it down below so you can go and see that right now. But as a brief description, in Phantom Manor there is a young girl who is going to get married, but then her fiancé disappears. He ends up being hung by the rafters by a mysterious phantom, and the phantom has obviously killed this man, and the bride doesn't know anything about the disappearance of her fiancé, and she ends up mourning him and wondering why he's not turned up to the wedding, and waiting in the mansion for hundreds of years. She dies, and then she becomes a ghost, and she's still waiting for him to return, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit depressing, but it's a really good ride, and basically it's all about the decaying and what goes on in the mansion after the death of this fiancé, and then his jilted bride. So yeah, it's a really, really good story, and have a read of it down below, because it's worth getting into, particularly if you're not someone that speaks any French, because none of us in my family speak French, and we don't really know what happens in the beginning section. There's a big voiceover, and it's all in French. So it's definitely worth, if you're going for the first time, or if you're going for the 8th time, to read the stories. Actually, then when you go on it again, it has a little bit more context to it. Now, just to warn you all, it is being refurbished at the moment, Phantom Manor, and I haven't got any clue what the refurbs are going to be. I know there's going to be some new scenes, but they haven't specified what, and it just needs a little bit of a spruce. Not too much, obviously, because it's supposed to be a decaying house, but some animatronics looked a little bit old, I suppose. They were kind of a bit like jerky, like this, where they should be like this. So a lot of things like that. Some of the lights didn't look like they were quite working well. There was the sound of a raven, and there was no raven to be seen, where there usually is on top of the piano. So lots of things like that. It definitely needed a refurb. So I'm hoping that they are going to do a really good job, but not change too much, because Phantom Manor needs to stay as it is, because it's fab. Disney did a really good job of refurbing Pirates of the Caribbean without changing too much. I was worried because Phantom and Pirates are my 2 favourite rides in Disney, and I was very concerned that they'd change Pirates unrecognisably. But they didn't. They did a really good job, and I love the refurb. So hopefully I'll feel the same about Phantom Manor. It reopens again in the autumn. It's around September, October time, so if you're planning a trip around then, you might be lucky enough to be one of the first to visit the new Phantom Manor. So yes, while you're there, go on Thunder Mountain, and you'll have then accomplished the 2 big rides in Frontierland. The only other thing in Frontierland that you could class as a ride would be the boat. The Thunder Mesa Riverboat Landing. That's a bit of a mouthful. You get on the boat, it's a standing boat. You'll just stand on the decks and it goes around very, very, very slowly. And you get to go around the back of Thunder Mountain, which is something you don't get to do unless you go on the boat. So there used to be odd little scenes for you to see. Now there is a man standing in his fishing cabin, and there is herd of deer or elk or moose. I'm not sure what they are, some sort of animal of that sort. And on occasion, not all the time I've noticed, there are geysers that shoot up from the Thunder Mountain area. So there are odd little bits to see, but there actually is only 1 boat in operation at the moment, which is the Molly Brown. There used to be 2. The other one was the Mark Twain. But they took that out a good few years ago, either because there wasn't enough people visiting to warrant having 2 boats, or because there was some sort of technical issue with it. I don't actually know the reasons for that. But yeah, there used to be 2, now there's only 1, but there's still usually enough boat times in the day for you to get a chance to go on it. So it's really worth doing, just to see a different view of the park, really. And last but not least, there is the Frontierland train station. Now, the train in Disneyland Paris goes all the way around the perimeter of the Disneyland park. So you start usually in Main Street, USA, you go around to Frontierland, there isn't one in Adventureland. You then go to Fantasyland, Discoveryland, and then back to Main Street. You can't go the opposite way around, and you can actually start at any station you wish. It's just the most traditional start at Main Street. The Frontierland station is right at the back of the land. So if you were to come in at the main entrance, coming off of Central Plaza, you would turn right, you'd go all the way past Thunder Mountain, all the way past that little right-hand fork that goes into Adventureland, all the way to the end. You go past the Cowboy Cookout, you go past the theatre, all that sort of stuff. All the way to the end is the Frontierland station. So if you just keep walking, eventually you'll hit it. So moving on to other attractions that you can see, there is the shooting gallery, which is where you each have a little gun. Actually, I think it's quite a large gun. You each have quite a large gun, and you have to shoot targets, and if you shoot enough targets, you win a prize. So it's one of those things you'd kind of traditionally see at a fun fair or something like that. And as far as I'm aware, it's the only attraction in the park that you actually have to pay extra for. I think it's something like €2 per go or something like that. And you have a certain amount of shots per go or a certain time limit per go. I have to admit, I've never actually done it. I've walked past it many times, but I don't care enough about shooting to pay €2 extra on top of my holiday. But I often see quite a lot of people doing it, so it's not that it's unpopular. So yeah, that's the shooting gallery, which is right next to the Thunder Mountain photo pass shop. So when you come out of Thunder Mountain, you go straight past the photo shop. So if you want to have a look at your ride photo, then that's where you do it. And right out of there, you have the shooting gallery. So it's very close to everything. It's not as if it's plunked out of the way somewhere. You also have a hidden gem in Frontierland, which I really like, just because of the views, really, more than anything, not because of the actual exhibit. But there's something called the Legends of the Wild West, which a lot of people would have no idea is there. So if you actually are thinking, Emily, what are you talking about? Then actually comment down below, because I'd love to see who I've surprised, who doesn't know it's there. So what you do is you walk in through the main entrance, again from Central Plaza, and just as you enter Frontierland, you take a walk to the left, and you've got some steps that go up past the little entrance sign. And up there is this big exhibit, which is full of kind of wax figures and statues, explaining Legends of the Wild West, so people like Davy Crockett, and talking about their life and the rooms that they would have lived in and how they would have lived their lives. And it's a really great little exhibit. And there's one bit we get to walk across the bridge, which forms that entrance sign of Frontierland. You get to walk across it, and it's a really, really great view of Frontierland, particularly Thunder Mountain. So yeah, it's a nice little thing to do, and I would encourage you guys next time you go to have a look at that, because it's a really great little hidden gem of Disney. So you also have the Pocahontas Indian Village. So if you have children going with you, because I think there's an age limit of up to 12, it's kind of like a playground. So it's got slides, it's got some swings, it's got other little bits of park equipment there. And I suppose if they're not tired enough already, it's a great little place for them to burn off some energy, let off some steam, while you guys get to chill out on a bench and have a much needed sit down. And last but not least, in the entertainment section of Frontierland, we have the Chaparral Theatre. Now the Chaparral Theatre is home to several shows. At the moment nothing is on there, and actually I don't know what's coming up in the distant or not too distant future, but recently they've had the Frozen sing-along, which usually comes out around Christmas time, in which they play Frozen with subtitles, and all the parents and kids that go in there can be singing Let It Go at the tops of their voices, and you can hear it from the other side of Frontierland if the wind's in the right direction. So there's a lot of things going on there. The one that I've heard lots of good things about was Forest of Enchantment. I didn't actually get there to see that because it was on for a season. I think it was spring. But yeah, Forest of Enchantment was a really good show. I remember Tarzan being in it, having seen some videos, and he was swinging on this rope and doing lots of rope tricks. It was, yeah, really interesting to see. But it was another one of those shows, a bit like the Mickey and the Magician show in the studios. It's kind of like that, and it's lots of singing, lots of dancing, and just good old-fashioned entertainment. So yes, the Chaparral Theatre, keep an eye out as to what's actually on there, because lots of good shows are put on in Frontierland. Character meet and greets. Now, these change every week, really, so I cannot tell you at the moment exactly what meet and greets are going to be there for your upcoming trip, but generally they are characters associated with Frontierland. So quite often you'll be able to see Woody or Jessie and people like that, cowboy themed characters. When we were there at Halloween, there was a lot of characters there that were dressed in Mexican gear. So we had Daisy was there, Mickey and Minnie were there, and the reason that they were there is because Coco was on its way out, and Coco is a Mexican themed film, and therefore the characters had their Mexican themed outfits, obviously to promote the film. Thunder Mesa is a Mexican themed land, Thunder Mesa being the name of the town that Frontierland is based on. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Because Thunder Mesa is a Mexican themed town, it seemed right that Coco should be advertised there. Now there are two shops in Frontierland. One I've already mentioned, which is the Big Thunder Photographer, and that one is the one that you go past when you come out of Big Thunder Mountain. You can scan your PhotoPass card if you have a PhotoPass card, and if you don't, you just need to look at your picture that you've taken on the ride. Sometimes it does take a little while for them to come up, so don't panic if you don't see yours. But just to let you all know, the ride photo, if you don't want to hear it, turn it on mute. The ride photo is taken at the really big drop that you get coming down the left-hand side of Thunder Mountain as you look at it from the entrance. It's the left-hand side, it's the bit that faces Phantom Manor. And there's a really big drop, they take the picture and then water comes spurting out. Okay, so if you've been on mute, you can listen to me now. So the ride photo can be taken from Big Thunder Photographer. The other shop is called Thunder Mesa Mercantile Building, I think. And basically it's three shops almost in one that all just link in together. And they sell lots of cowboy stuff, lots of kind of piratey stuff as well. There's a right mix, but you're very, very unlikely in the Thunder Mesa Mercantile shop to actually get anything princessy or anything anything that you would find on Main Street. No kind of like candles and dishes and stuff like that. They're all going to be cowboys, it's going to be pirates, it's going to be Indians and all that sort of stuff. You're going to find that stuff in that shop. Lots of Coco stuff at the moment, apparently, which is good. Apparently you can get a your own plush Dante, which makes me very happy because he's got his really long tongue. So yeah, that's the shop that you can get in Frontierland, but because it's not a very big land, you don't need a very big shop. Okay, now moving on to restaurants and refreshments in Frontierland. Now, the first one that we're going to talk about is the Cowboy Cookout, which is kind of near the train station and the Chaparral Theatre, like I mentioned earlier, all the way towards the back of the land. And the Cowboy Cookout is a very, very big building. It's a counter service, so you get meal deals, and you get things like sausages and chicken, burgers, ribs, barbecue ribs, things like that. All things you expect at a barbecue. All the meal deals come with potato wedges or a salad, you get to choose which one. And the dessert option, you get a dessert option as well, but it varies with each meal. So there are things like fruit salads, brownies, yogurts, Magnum ice creams, apple crumble and pecan tart as well. So that's the menu at the moment. Obviously the menus are subject to change, so don't count me on this if you're reading this in 3 years. But that's what's going on at the moment in the Cowboy Cookout. All of the meals come with a refreshing drink. And if you ever get that in Disney and you see refreshing drink, what is that? I think it's boisson in French. It's the 3 different types of Coke. So normal Coke, Diet Coke and Coke Zero. You get Fanta Orange, Sprite, Nestea, which is the peach iced tea in France, Vittel water, and the San Pellegrino sparkling water, and Minute Maid orange juice. But the Minute Maid orange juice does have bits in it, just to make you all aware. Moving on to Fuente del Oro, which is one of my favourite themed restaurants in the park. It's Mexican, and I absolutely love Mexican food. In fact, I'm actually having tacos tonight because I'm so excited about the thought of Mexican food. Fuente del Oro also does meal deals. Now, with all the restaurants that do meal deals, you also get to choose some things a la carte if you want to. But the meal deals are such good deals, actually, so I would always choose a meal deal myself. So Fuente del Oro, you get loaded fries, burritos or chicken fajitas, and again you can either have a side salad or Mexican rice, which is kind of, it almost seems a bit paella-ish, the Mexican rice. It's flavoured and it's slightly more orange than it is white. The desserts are similar to the Cowboy Cookout, plus you get the option of churros as well, which makes me very excited. Fajitas and churros is basically the dream. And you also get a refreshing drink. The Last Chance Cafe is actually a la carte, and you get lots of different bits and bobs. Stuff like soups, salads, sausage, chicken, chilies, lots of Mexican wraps, that sort of stuff. All a la carte, and you can also get very similar desserts and very similar drinks to the two before. Now, the Lucky Nugget Saloon. This one is table service, but actually the menu seems a little bit more like counter service, which confuses me a little bit. If you're going to have table service, I'd like it to be a more posh table service, but this is the menu anyway. You have set menus, which is why it obviously feels a bit counter-servicey. There are three options. You get pork barbecue spare ribs, a cheeseburger, or fish and chips. And fish and chips confuses me slightly as well, because it doesn't seem very cowboy or Mexican, so fish and chips, there you go. Now the desserts are slightly different. You can get a fruit salad cup, a muffin, a brownie, or an ice cream sundae. And the ice cream sundae, you get choices between strawberry and chocolate sauce. So last but not least, we have the Silver Spur Steakhouse. As you can see, there's actually more restaurants than rides in Frontierland. We must like to eat as guests. So Silver Spur Steakhouse is table service and is one of the most kind of prestigious meals in the park, and is the most prestigious in Frontierland, and you can tell by the price of the menu. These menus are available online if you want to go look at the prices, because I'm not going to detail them all right now. But for starters in the Silver Spur Steakhouse, you can get beef carpaccio, Caesar salad, Cobb salad, soup, and something called a cowboy platter, which is a lot of different things like barbecued meats and wedges, that sort of stuff, all in one platter, which sounds very, very good. Now, for mains, I'm going to have to read this out to you because I cannot remember this many variations of meat. Are you ready? Here we go. Veal chop, Angus beef rib, ribeye steak, grilled beef fillet, flank steak, spatchcocked chicken, pork chop, roast gambas? Gambas? Just googled it. It's a shrimp. Roast shrimp. There you go. Salmon crumble. And, of course, a vegetarian burger. I'm no vegetarian myself, but I'm not an overly avid fan of chunks of meat. But if you're a veggie, I would suggest, unless the rest of your party are meat eaters, not going to Silver Spur Steakhouse, because all you get is a veggie burger. So yes, I wouldn't recommend it. And desserts, we have an ice cream sundae, a Kentucky creme brulee with bourbon cream, a big thunder cake, which is apparently an Oreo-based cake, blueberry cobbler, lemon pie, fruit salad, or coffee and tea with mini desserts. So yeah, that's a big menu, that one. So there you go, that is my whistle-stop tour of Frontierland. Next week we will be doing a different land. Join me again on my ultimate guidebook to Disneyland Paris. I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Bye!